Welcome to the Winning in Edmonton podcast, a show where we celebrate local business and entrepreneurship, where we interview the top business people in Edmonton, find out exactly what they did to become successful, learn about their story so that we can take powerful lessons from their journey that we can then apply into our own businesses and lives. I'm your host, Francisco Martin, and I'm extremely excited about our guest today. He's the CEO of the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce. He's an author of 13 Ways to Kill Your Community, and he's a former MLA. Welcome, Doug.
Thanks for having me on the show. I'm really excited to be here.
Super stoked to have you. Thanks so much for taking the time. I know you got lots on the go. There's a lot happening in the world right now, so really appreciate you making the effort.
Yeah, well, I always take time for this, and this is a great podcast, so I'm really excited and honored to be on here.
I figure, a good place, let's just start from the very beginning. So you have had a very eventful career. I'd love to just start from the beginning. I know you come from small town Alberta. Can you just take us back and tell us a story of how you ended up to where you are now?
Oh, well,
we got time.
I'm 53. That's a long story, full of a lot of hills and valleys. I don't know. Like if you go back to where I grew up, I'm not going to name any names, but it was a lot of what helped make me into who I am, and not always for good reasons. It was, I had a lot of opportunity growing up on the farm. It was a lot of hard work, feeding cows before you went to school, feeding cows when you came home from school, calving for months on end. So you're up every 2 hours, pulling calves, finding them in the snowbanks, spending all summer, seeding and swathing and haying and baling, and the work was nonstop. So it produced a great work ethic. But I'll also say I didn't always feel like I fit into that community.
Right.
I don't know if I was different in some way, but I didn't always feel like I belonged. And I remember I had a bit of a transformational moment. A friend of mine had given me a brochure one day when I was a little down, and it was about an exchange somewhere else in the world. And I went to Switzerland. I left the day after grade 11, and I came back the day before grade 12. And I went from feeling like I had no sense of belonging and probably depressed for quite a while to I realizing there was a big, massive world out there. There was so many exciting opportunities, and I could not wait to go explore them. So, I went off to university. I failed out.
No way.
I went back to college. I got almost perfect grades. I got invited back to the same university that kicked me out to come back to the honors program because I'd learned quite a bit, and a couple of degrees in my MBA later, some experience still farming and ranching and teaching, and then some time in politics too. And here I am with my own company and the CEO also of the Edmonton Chamber.
Wow.
How's that for a short synopsis?
That's a lot. And I'd love to get into some detail. So when you went to school for philosophy, and I wanted to ask you, why philosophy?
Well, actually, I didn't. I went to school at the University of Alberta, and I was taking all the sciences. I was taking everything I took in high school. So I had a chemistry course and 2 biology courses and a genetics course and 2 math courses, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And
right.
There was nobody really with enough experience to say, here's what you do when you go to university. So I just carried on with high school, and I only failed one class. I failed chemistry. I still remember the problem.
Anyway,
it was
Yeah.
hard, but I also remember I mentally gave up because I went in to see the prof this first year chemistry class, and I said, I thought I got this one right, this question on the test. And he looked at it and he said, yeah, you did. Who are you? And I said my name, and he said, no, your ID number. And I felt like I was just a number.
Yeah.
And there were hundreds of kids in the class, and I remember I kind of gave up on that class, so I failed it. I didn't do great in the rest, but I passed them all. But I got a dean's letter that said, get the hell out. So I remember I thought, I have just destroyed my life. All the work I've done till high school, and it's gone. I went down to Red Deer College because it was only a few weeks before the next round of classes started in September when I got the letter, and all the science classes were taken. They were all maxed out. So I took sociology, philosophy, history. I took a lot of arts classes, which we didn't get a lot of exposure to in my hometown, and I didn't know much about. And I loved them. It was just, it was the discussion and the concepts around society and around what was justice and around, and I really, my prof in my philosophy class sent off my final paper to some competition, and I didn't win, but I got a letter from the University of Alberta philosophy department asking if I would like to come back and join the honors program. And I thought it was funny that the people who kicked me out just invited me back into an honors program. So I finished that. And I thought I would go to law school, and then realized I really didn't want to be a lawyer. So I got a teaching degree and went back and taught junior high in my hometown and bought more cattle and horses. And then that's when I shot my mouth off and wound up in politics. But I didn't start with philosophy, but I think it was still one of the most valuable things I ever took. It helps you break down arguments, break down law, or build up logic, break down fallacies, and search for truth, which if somebody said what my reason to be is probably to find the truth all the time.
So I wanted to ask you because, ever since I was in high school, there's always been the big debate about, is post-secondary education still worth it? In your experience, was that experience valuable for you as you reflect on the career and some of the different decisions that you made?
Yeah, hands down. I actually get why people talk about the value of a 4-year degree now. But when I think about that, and sometimes I say, 4-year degrees might become a thing of the past. It's mostly because technology and information is changing so quickly, and the world is adapting or changing to a place where you have to learn all the time. You don't finish a degree and you're good for the next 40 years for your career. I mean, I'm a testament that I got an honors philosophy degree, and then I got a teaching degree, and then I got my MBA. And, if I had my druthers, I would still be getting, a law degree, or I'd still be going to school, because it's so interesting and there's so much to learn. So I don't know necessarily that a 4-year degree is the place you learn so you can get on with your career, but a 4-year degree is important to open your mind. No matter where you come from the most exotic place ever. Travel and post-secondary education expose you to new ideas, new situations, new people, and that's the value that they provide. Those new concepts, those new ideas, those new experiences. That's where you go from being, a person who's growing up in a restricted environment, because we're protected, and it doesn't matter if you grow up in New York, you're still in your neighborhood, you still have your family, you still have your friends. The point of that post-secondary education and the travel that I think should go with it is exposure to new ideas, which opens your mind and gets you ready for the real mindset that's going to make you successful for the rest of your life. So
when you had that experience, you wanted to go into law originally.
Yeah.
And then you said, screw that.
Yeah.
So why did you make that, why did you shift gears?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I talked to a few lawyers, and I think I had some grand vision of being a trial lawyer.
Looks more fun on TV.
It does look more fun on TV.
You watch Suits, you're like, hey, that looks awesome.
I could do that. That's what I want to be.
Yeah.
And international law really interested me.
Right.
But then I don't know, my focus shift, because getting the honors degree in philosophy and going home every summer and buying more horses, buying more cows, and I started to see how our rural communities were suffering. The populations were declining, the economy was declining, and the international interest in being, the big city fancy trial lawyer, which, I think I still would have been really good at it, sort of got replaced by what is happening to my town, what is happening to the town where I teach, the town where I farm, and the town that was in between them. And so I just started to worry about local politics a lot more than I did before. And that's what, led me to start to shoot my mouth off about the need for a community development strategy for the province, which got me into politics, and it changed the whole course of my life, and I don't regret it at all.
I would love to dig into that, because you were 29 years old when you became an MLA.
Yes,
and that is an age where most people are not thinking about that at all. right? So you touched on briefly of what inspired you to explore that, but I really wanted to understand how the heck did you learn at that age to, first off, how do you learn to win your election? And then second, how did you learn to actually deliver on the promises and deliver on the kind of commitments that you were making to your community? Did you have some kind of mentorship did you learn that in school? Like how did you learn those two pretty major things?
Yeah. That's a good question. It's never one moment and it's never one person. So, my family and my parents always talked about politics at the table. It was generally, I hate the liberals and
small town Alberta
to hell with whoever the liberal leader is. But there were other complex conversations that went on because I know that, my dad's cousin, they used to come every summer and help. And I used to, on the farm, and I used to sit and listen to the two of them debate each other. And they had starkly different points of view. And I found that really interesting and fascinating. The debate part, breaking down arguments, building them back, which again, I guess once I took my first philosophy class just really appealed to me. Mm-hmm. When I decided to run though, people knew, had read my columns in the paper because I started to write, and they kind of had a pretty good idea about where I stood. They also knew where my parents stood in politics. But then there were people like, I will always credit, probably more than anyone else, a gentleman named Brian. Mm-hmm. When I decided I was going to run, I stopped into my brother's business and my dad popped in and he said, "So what are you up to?" And I said, "I think I'm going to run for the nomination," because our MLA had resigned.
Right.
So they were going to have a by-election. And he looked at me and said, "You don't have a hope in hell." Which, was a fair comment. We were in the corner of the constituency with the least population. No one ever bothered running because there just wasn't much of an opportunity. And then I said, "No, I'm going to do it anyway." So we stepped outside and there was my dad's friend who was on the board for that particular party. And he pulled over, got out of the vehicle and said, "What's up?" to my dad. Mm-hmm. My dad said, "The boy here thinks he wants to run for the nomination."
Wow.
And George said, "You don't have a hope in hell." And I said, "I'm going to do this and I'm going to win." And so we went to George's house and sat down and started calling through the phone book I didn't know how I was going to win. I didn't know how it was going to be done. And I don't know that they did either, but it was such a grounded grassroots effort to just start alphabetically in the phone book and start calling people. And by the end of that night, we had almost 60 people who said, "Yeah, I'll help." And we won. And I never for a minute doubted that I was going to win. There's only 3 times in my life when I've ever had absolutely zero doubt that I was going to be successful. And that was running for the nomination, meeting my wife, and this new thing that I'm doing with the relaunch of 13 Ways of my company. I have no doubt that all 3 at those times that I was going to succeed.
So, that kind of grassroots effort where you're going one by one, I haven't heard anyone talk about a phone book in some time.
Yeah, right. But it aged me, didn't it?
Yeah, and even the courage to do something like that, right? So, in my profession, there's a lot of, cold calling, and a lot of people, if you're not used to it, it's intimidating. It's very scary to call someone that you don't know and ask them to, either meet with you or support this cause that, they're not thinking about until now. You're bringing it up now that you're calling them. Another thing that's pretty scary for people is public speaking and giving now political speeches where you're sharing your ideas. So when I was preparing for this, so you used to blast Eminem in your truck before speeches, and that spoke to my soul. I'm an Eminem guy too, but I'm more of a metal guy. But I've definitely had those kind of like crapping my pants right now. I need a minute to like get in the zone. So how do you go? You went from that to now a very capable and excellent public speaker. What advice do you have for people that are just beginning to develop that skill? What would you tell them when they're starting out and they're looking at a crowd like, "Oh my God, I don't know if I can do this." Put on some Slim Shady or their go-to.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mentioned Brian.
Yeah.
And Brian was the first guy, because everyone kept saying, "You don't have a hope in hell." Brian was the first guy. He gave me a hard time when we were done. He said, "Yeah, I think it's a great idea. You should run." He was the first guy that said that to me. And he was like a mentor from then on. And the first thing he said is, "Let's get your speech done." Mm-hmm. And we went into the small gym in the school, and for hours, he would just give me pointers on how to, where the inflection should be,
Right.
and every time he would actually sometimes stop me and say, damn it, why aren't you speaking from the heart? Forget the words.
Yeah.
The words are there as a guide. Speak from the heart. And I'll tell you, even towards the end of my political career, when I'd sometimes go to read the script, and it was boring.
Yeah.
And I'd be in front of 1,000 people speaking and reading the prescribed lines that you're supposed to get the message across.
Yeah.
And the noise level you could just hear go up in the room. And I'd just slide it to the side because I knew the stats I needed to get out, and I knew the core message. And I'd just start to speak from the heart about why this is important and what we needed to do, and the noise level go right back down. So my advice to everybody is, practice a lot. Know that nobody is very, very good at it until they're great at it. But even I'm constantly I wouldn't say criticizing myself, but finding pointers on how to make what I'm talking about and the way I'm delivering the message better. And God, speak from the heart. Like the best tip I have from my experience is that if anything, write down the facts and numbers if you need to cite some stuff on a separate sheet of paper and put it on your right. And the one in front of you, you should write between 3 and 5 bullet points. And it should be just a word or two that remind you of what you're talking about. And if each bullet point is 3 to 5 minutes, you've got a whole speech prepared, and it's going to be authentic and come from the heart. And that would be my number one bit of advice.
Sometimes I found that it can be kind of difficult to tell the difference when you're seeing it online. But you and I have both been to events where someone's reading from a teleprompter versus when they, as you put it, speak from the heart, and it just hits completely different.
Yeah.
And you can tell when it's authentic, right? People have a good BS meter. And when you can dial that in, it's so powerful. So one of the things that I wanted to learn a little bit from you is you are a very passionate advocate for Edmonton. And obviously, in your role with the Edmonton Chamber, why are you so fired up about Edmonton? And why do you think it's such a, I guess, let's leave it at that. Why are you so passionate about this and sharing the story and sharing the success and the opportunity that's available here?
That's a great question. I would say it's a little like when I was a junior high teacher. I would get just as fired up about some students, especially the ones that had so much talent and so much, like they were brilliant students. They were just amazing people. But when they lacked confidence in themselves, those are the ones that I was always drawn to the most, because I thought, you've got to find that belief in yourself to achieve your full potential. Because I've seen brilliant students who there's nothing you can do when you don't believe in yourself to get them to do something, and they fail. But I've seen mediocre students who believe in themselves do exceptional things.
Right.
So the most disappointing thing you can ever see is a student who's just got everything going for them and every opportunity in the world, but doesn't believe that. And then it's like such wasted potential.
Yeah.
That is the way I feel about Edmonton. This city has so much going for it. I mean, both national rail lines with major hubs here in Edmonton. This is their major ports. We've got the largest airline in Canada, and it's got room for expansion, room for manufacturing. We're surrounded. We're 14 municipalities, 13 surrounding. Each one has these unique assets that make it incredible. I mean, St. Albert is so different from Sherwood Park, which is so different from Fort Saskatchewan, which is so different from Leduc. We've got manufacturing, and we've got industry, and we've got innovation and cold weather technology. We've got beautiful neighborhoods in Edmonton to live in. We've got, we're the third largest, I believe, financial district in all of Canada.
Right.
We're the number one with the University of Alberta in artificial intelligence, number 3 collectively in North America. We've got all our post-secondaries downtown. We've got a large, vibrant downtown with incredible potential. We're just sitting on the cusp. I mean, I don't mean to bring in a sports analogy, but the Edmonton Oilers were just announced to have the number 1 sports franchise in hockey.
Wow. And
the number 3 most financially viable, worth the most amount of money, third most in the world. It's valued at $3.8 billion, I think they said. This is incredible. The greatest hockey player in the world wants to play hockey in Edmonton. I mean, he just wrote the letter that said, I don't care what they offer me. I want to play in Edmonton. We have the largest green space in all of North America with the River Valley. Like, I can go on and on.
Yeah.
if there's a Nobel Prize won in healthcare, it will be because of the Applied Pharmacy API Institute here in Edmonton and their new facility. Like this city, every single other city in the world would love to have the combination of things that we have. And yet we're so humble. And I've said many times, one of the greatest attributes of being in Edmonton is that everyone's so humble. But one of the worst attributes about Edmonton is that it's collectively so humble. Yeah. We don't brag about ourselves. And it's like watching this incredibly talented, kind, generous, innovative, creative kids who just doesn't quite believe in themselves. And this city has to smarten up and believe in itself. And I'm going to do everything I possibly can to help get it there, because this country, Alberta needs more Edmonton. The country needs more Edmonton, and Edmonton belongs having a brand and a reputation as an international city that people want to be in. Mm-hmm. We just have to start telling that story ourselves and stop being so humble or embarrassed by our bounty of riches, and focusing on the few things that we need to fix, because everyone has something to fix. Sorry, I know that was
that was fantastic.
That's the passion coming through.
Well, and you know what? When I was younger, like after high school, I've always, when I was in high school, I would watch Dragon's Den. I've always wanted to be a business owner. And I remember genuinely believing that I had to move in order to accomplish something. I really believed it. And I wrote, I thought I would go somewhere in the US or Vancouver or Toronto. And then when I started working, it blew my mind how many people, how many success stories there are, and people have no idea, right? Because they drive an F-150 instead of the Lamborghini,
exactly.
Right? So people have and there aren't a couple of businesses doing well. Like it's actually
the
surreal.
entrepreneurial capital of Canada.
It's ridiculous. And there's so many, I'm a new business owner myself. Our company just finished its second year. There are so many supports. People are so supportive, and they want to support local business, and people have no idea. So when I hear a fresh grad talk about, well, I have big dreams, I think I might consider, going to Calgary or Vancouver, it just blows my mind. And that's why I started this as well, because like you, I think that there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of potential. We've just scratched the surface, and there's so much winning that people don't even realize that it's happening, right? Because again, people are, and it comes from a great place. People are humble, but that's also the greatest weakness.
I know. Yeah. I know. And when you're humble, then, we're all taught and educated not to brag about ourselves, and I completely understand that. But if you don't tell anybody anything, then they're not going to know, because no other city's going to celebrate Edmonton or brag about it. We have to start talking about how great the city is and what we have to offer.
And I want to spend a moment kind of referencing your book, because I know you initially wrote it with smaller communities in mind, but I actually think there's a couple areas in this book that tie really well into Edmonton. So I want to actually take a second to read from chapter 2. So the chapter revolves around, so the book is called 13 Ways to Kill Your Community. And the second chapter revolves around one of the best ways to kill a community is to not incentivize business. And I just wanted to basically read a quick part from this book. And I have a question that I want to ask you that directly ties to this. So from chapter 2, what people think they want and what they truly need can often be completely different. A good way to learn the real needs of the community is to conduct a simple survey, not of what people want, but of what they actually leave the town to purchase. Compile and sort the list into the most common goods and services. This will give you the clearest sense of what people truly need rather than what they say they want. And it's kind of touches on what people say they want versus what they actually support with their wallet is completely different. Yeah. And as someone that is so connected to the business community, and you see where the demand is, you see what businesses are doing well, you see what businesses are struggling, for people that are listening to this and they're looking to invest or looking for opportunities, where do you see opportunities in Edmonton specifically that maybe, aren't getting, because, everyone knows AI, but what are you seeing that isn't getting the attention that maybe it should be?
Oh, that's a really good question. Edmonton does lead on, restaurant and lounges and bars, those social spaces. So it's really good. I think it's not a question of whether or not Edmonton is missing something related to a particular business. I think what we're missing now is probably the connection of the business community and its entrepreneurship to younger people and the students who are graduating. So, because everything is available for you, and I don't know very many people who have to leave Edmonton for much of anything except in January,
right?
Then it's a Mexican beach and a margarita, right? But otherwise, I don't know. Edmonton has incredible festivals, amazing events. Like everything seems to come together. If we're missing something, it's the connection with the business community, with those younger people and those grads, which is why they look around and they say, I got to go to Toronto. I want to go to Calgary. I want to go to Vancouver. I want to go to the US. I'm going to go somewhere, because I don't think they recognize just how many opportunities are available. And that's part of the reason at the Chamber we're working on this Olympians group to connect entrepreneurs, younger folks, business leaders together, and strengthening their voice so that they can affect policy, but then they also can tell some of those stories, because we've got this little gap that people don't recognize just how many opportunities are out there right now.
Right. Well, and when we're talking about the different opportunities, I think, so speaking, for myself before, I started my company, which is a fairly simple professional service. I really thought that the only way to get part of the pie was to do something extremely elaborate, like an Uber or a Twitter. And that is just so not true. And I remember I had this Google Drive folder of, like, I kid you not, I showed there's like 50 different business ideas, from like a wedding venue to, like, I'm a drummer, like a drum accessory business, to a clothes. Like, there was so many different things. And I never realized that, hey, there's a lot of opportunity in pretty much any sector. If you can deliver a great product, even if it's already existing, and just do it just a little bit better, that raises the bar. So it doesn't have to be the next Uber or, like, a Tesla or anything like that. It can just be, hey, what is your profession, and where do you see an opportunity where you can make it better? Yeah.
Well, that, the rule of thumb for entrepreneurialism is that instead of trying to create a new idea, just find out what's missing in your life that you had trouble getting or finding or connecting with. Because odds are, if you can't find it in your community in the city of Edmonton, that there's 1,000 other people that can't find it. Well, that's a pretty good base to build a business. And it doesn't have to be a miracle. It can turn into a miracle. But yeah, I think it's a little bit of the, maybe it's the Instagram, Facebook, celebrity, influencer bullshit day and age. Sorry, I didn't know if or not. But it's that whole, I've got to hit it out of the park or I can't do anything. No, before you hit it out of the park, you got to learn how to swing. Right. And you got to pick a pitch to swing at. And so, I always say, well, just sit down and think about what you couldn't find. I mean, start with whatever you order from online. Yeah. If you have to order it online, that might be something everybody else might want.
Right. So when it comes to, you built your own business because you saw this need, and, communities needed guidance on what to do and how to structure their infrastructure, how to invest. A lot of it revolves around mindset. What were those first early years for you like when you were, you got into politics, before you were in the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce? What was it like for you when you were trying to get your own business off the ground? What were those first few years like?
It was actually, it didn't quite evolve like that. When the first edition of the book came out, it was just a bit before I decided to run for the leadership of the party, because our premier had resigned. And so I got invited all over the province to speak, but the book had come out, 13 Ways to Kill Your Community. Nobody wanted to hear my plans for the province. They all wanted me to do 13 ways. Yeah. So I actually, I did a bunch of them and I couldn't keep up. And then my best friend had passed away from complications due to epilepsy, and he had 2 young boys. So I asked everyone, if you want me to come, donate $500 to their education trust fund. And then no one said no. So we changed it to $1,000 for the new ones that came in. We wound up raising $54,000 for their education trust fund, which I was pretty happy with. But then when I was leaving politics in 2016, 10 years later,
right,
the first thing I did was sit down at Christmas right before I resigned and rewrote the book. And it's technically a new book, not just a second edition. And I got a couple of speaking gigs, and just my agent tells me it's the best business plan in the world, because they pay to buy the book, then they pay to have me come and speak, then they pay to come and have me teach them how to do the things I say you need to do in your community, and then they say, well, would you do it for us anyway? So I don't spend a lot of money on business development except getting the book published, and it's been good. But the biggest challenge probably is that it grew fast, hired people, but then I had to do some work in order to pay for those people. And then I wasn't doing the work I wanted to. I was doing work because I had to. And, it's sort of the evolution of that first 5 years of business where you can come across some pitfalls. So for me, I just focused on doing the work that I want to do with the clients that I think I can help. And stayed small like that in boutique. The new launch is going to be about tools and products to help them, because everybody needs some help. But I'm still going to be focusing on doing the keynotes and consulting with communities that I can help make a difference in.
So that actually kind of touches on my next question, which I was going to ask, what were some of the obstacles along the way? Because eventually, I mean, it sounds like you got traction fairly quickly, because there was demand for it, because you saw that demand. But what was it like building out an actual business? Sounds like you brought some other people on board to help you organize everything and coordinate that. What was that part like when you had to now, you're not, you're directly bringing people on to work for you because they believe in your vision and your company.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just recently I hired 3 people back to 13 Ways because we're going to do the relaunch. And, it's nerve-wracking because you're thinking, well, it's always mostly been about me and about me delivering the services. So you ask yourself, what if this doesn't take off? What if it doesn't work? But this is like I said before, even if I only get halfway, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be incredible. It's going to be transformative for communities. And to me, that's, I guess I'm 53 years old now, and I know I'm 53. I guess I'm 53, but I guess at this point in my life, is part of what I'm thinking to myself is I don't want to look back and have any regrets.
Right.
I mean, and that's probably the biggest. If we did any entrepreneurial training, business training, and how to be successful, it's that comfort is the most toxic feeling you can have because it prevents you from moving forward. Taking a risk is an incredibly powerful opportunity, and it is nerve-wracking. It's like public speaking. Right. Even when I get up to public speak now, in the first minute, even though I've done it a million times, I almost pass out. And then after a minute, you sort of catch your breath, and now I'm right into the message, and I forget the audience is there. I make sure I look at them, and I can see the looks on their faces that they're interested. You've got to do that terrifying thing, because otherwise you wind up 75 years old and you look back and say, "Shit, I should have done that." And that's what entrepreneurs do. They say, "I could fail," but you can fail being safe too. So, I don't know. I think it's every time you feel that little bit of fear, you embrace it. In fact, I'm going to share one story.
Please.
I don't know if my son will know this, but he played soccer. He was a goalkeeper. And I remember he was really terrified because they were playing a team and the other students were a lot bigger than them. And he was terrified. Like, am I going to get hurt? And his stomach was churning and he felt so nervous. At halftime, they were up 3-1. And I went over to see him at the bench, and he's like, "Dad, this is great. I'm so excited. We're doing well." And I said, it's the exact same adrenaline coursing through your body. But before you started the game, that was fear. And now at halftime, it's opportunity. It's the exact same adrenaline. It's your brain interpreting it a different way. And so I tell everybody, every time you're afraid of something, turn it into what you're anticipating and excitement and what you're going to do with it. Leverage that energy that your body's built up and do something with it.
I heard somewhere that it's the same chemical reaction in your brain.
Yeah. It's just the way you interpret it.
So, I mean, using fear as a compass is one of those things where it's not always obvious, in my opinion. But when you're in that stage where you're like, okay, hey, I'm going to live my life without regrets, I'm going to go for it. I guess you I'm sure throughout your career, you felt certain times like, you know what, this is a good leap. And then you leap and you're like, oh, okay, that didn't work. What were some of the I guess lessons learned along the way where you're like, okay, maybe that wasn't the move, especially as you took the plunge, you obviously took a risk getting into politics, you started your company, you've taken several very big leaps. What were some of those along the way where you're like, oh, maybe that didn't work out so hot?
Well, that's to have it, to get to a point where you say that didn't work out so hot. That's only in the moment. That's one thing that I've learned, is that it's only in the moment. I mean, I've done things and I've been afraid of them and I've done them anyway and I've been successful. Those are not interesting stories, actually.
Right.
We run a little program at the Chamber where we bring in business leaders who have been successful. And I always emphasize, I don't want you to tell me how you made millions and how you were successful. I want you to tell me when you were down on your luck and how terrified you were and what you did to get through that, because that's what people need to hear. Yeah. So those times that I did something and I was afraid and I did it and then I thought, oh, I've really messed this up. And trust me, there's more times than I can count. I've realized from age that it was only I messed it up at the moment. Sometimes those things that I think I messed up turned out to be like blessings in the end, that I'm so glad I did it. It caused me pain, but it opened another new door that I never would have anticipated. It gave me an experience that I got to apply 15 years later that was incredible. So my advice always is, even when you do something and you embrace the fear and you go ahead and you think you screwed up, you probably didn't. It feels like you screwed up in the moment, but now look around at what sort of new wall got knocked down, or what window got opened, or what door got wedged open, and figure out where that new opportunity is. And if you're always looking for those new opportunities, the old experiences you have, win, lose, draw, will turn into beneficial things later on in life. So you only ever lose in the short term. In the long term, everything you do is going to help you for the next decision. And so embrace winning and losing.
And those little obstacles, those little losses, I found that if left unchecked, instead of just being a little lesson or an obstacle along the way, it can reflect in your identity if you let it. And actually, I have a mentor that I've been working with for about six months. And one of the things that he brought up, and it's been one of the most powerful lessons for me, was that when something bad happens, to give an example, let's say, as a headhunter, I have a job order and now it blew up. When you're starting out, it's very easy to be like, there's a framework that basically goes, the content, emotion, and identity. So the content is, hey, I made a mistake. The emotion is, I'm pissed off about it. And then if left unchecked, the identity can be, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm going to fail. And being aware of that was really powerful for me, because then it goes from, okay, hey, I made a mistake. I am feeling this way about it. It's a mistake, but it's not an identity level like, I am inadequate, I will not. It's like, no, that's all just a mind trick. And it kind of made me think of what you were just alluding to, that those failures, it's not an identity level, thing, essentially.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And that's good. I hate ego. Ego kills. Ego makes your head too big and now you can't see your mistakes. Or your ego can also turn around and also tell you you're weak and you're a failure and it won't work and it holds you back. Every time I made a mistake, I would say it shouldn't impact your ego. Your ego should be healthy and identify who you are and what you're trying to become. Right. It shouldn't impact your ego and your brain and shrink it or grow it. It should just be a scar that you like a medal that you wear for, I learned a lesson, but also no, don't make it a medal. Just recognize you still have that scar there, but it's not the identity, not the identifying factor who you are. I really like that. That's a good process. That
was a little bit of that's something that I keep top of mind, because whenever something happens that's undesirable, it's very easy to then spiral like, oh, this whole plan is death. It's like, no. Take a step back. Something bad happened. You're upset about it. That's it. Not something bad happened. I'm upset about it. Now the whole business plan is a wash and you have to start like, so.
That's a really important mindset. I mean, I'm I said that we have this program and we have successful business leaders come in, and I always tell them, I don't want to hear about how you made millions. I want to hear about what you did when you were on the brink of bankruptcy. And even I was in that case. I mean, I wasn't on the brink of bankruptcy, but I had several months in a row during the pandemic where if a client didn't pay me on the 29th, I didn't know how I was going to do payroll on the 30th. And there's a lot of anxiety that goes in there.
Yeah.
And for me, I would have considered it a failure if I couldn't pay the folks that I had hired. I always make sure they get paid first. And, but I did have thoughts like, maybe I'm just horrible with this. Maybe there's no hope. And then I go back to all you can focus on is what's right now. And then we get through it, and then the cash starts to come in and the businesses got better. And that was even while the pandemic was still on. It wasn't after the pandemic. It was that people had adjusted to the pandemic. And so we wound up getting more work again, and it was good. But, I don't, it's the old Michael Jordan quote. Mm-hmm. Everyone always talks about how many baskets I've made. They never talk about how many I've missed. Right. Everybody misses. Everybody fails. Those are the parts that define you and what you're going to do when you move forward in the good times. I don't think you'd appreciate it if all you went from success to success to success. So those failing moments are what define us and who we're going to be. And yes, if they become part of our identity when we fail, then you'll never succeed. Right. If they become part of a learning experience and, a dent in your armor, a little scar you have on your skin, then you'll grow past that.
One of the things that helped me realize that was, when I was younger, I was terrified of reaching out to people that had the CEO or CFO title. Right. There was something where, when you're a young professional and you're getting started, it's very easy to fall into, oh my gosh, these people, they're better than me. They have this special gift that I don't have. And I think when I started meeting a lot of these people, like yourself, that are way further along in their career, it helped me realize, like, wait a minute, you had fears about payroll at some point as well. Yeah. You made a stupid mistake like that as well. And it's like, wait a minute, just because someone's further along, doesn't mean that they're wired differently or anything like that. And that kind of ties into something that I want to ask you, because in my opinion, one of the biggest advantages of doing business in Edmonton is that a lot of really successful people are very available. They are accessible. And that's something that I don't think is the same in other big cities.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. That is my experience too. And that's what, there's no one I've called where I started off at the CEO calling these folks who are, incredibly successful. I'm like, they'll never have the time for me. Yeah. I can't believe how much time they make.
Wait, you'll meet with me? It's like,
yeah. And I love, that's one of the beautiful things. And I agree with you. It is unique about the city of Edmonton, the humility and they want to help too. I mean, not just sharing, I went through some tough times, but hey, I got 4 people I can connect you with that will help you with that. I actually know 2 companies that are looking to hire people right now, and they haven't even found somebody to, everybody in this city wants to help everybody else. And it's this, it's weird. I know that Edmonton sometimes gets the brand of being a little left, and our city to the south gets branded of being more to the right. Mm-hmm. That's bullshit. This is just a city of people who want to see everybody else succeed too. And I don't think that that's right or left. I think that's just being kind human beings. And I'm so impressed by how many business leaders have been so willing to share and so willing to help. It's one of the greatest assets a city has.
Absolutely. So when you're, talking to business people, what advice would you have for them as they're looking to meet other great business people looking to build their network?
Join the chamber.
Join the chamber. That's no joke. I've said that on previous episodes that it's been absolutely incredible.
Well, we rebuilt the chamber in the last 2 years, and that
was a layup question.
Yeah, it was but it really it doesn't have to just be the chamber. There's so many different organizations and so many opportunities, and of course, we're sort of the network of business networks. But from the Coffee with the Chamber, when you're looking for a job, you're looking for a client, you're looking for an opportunity, through the chamber after hours where managers come to network and meet and greet, and right through to the the C-suite group that we've built to talk about big picture business items and what it means for Edmonton on the international stage. We've got so many events and so many opportunities to meet. All you have to do is give a call, and we'll even, if you're looking for something, we'll try and connect you with somebody. That's our job. But anywhere you go, like the local arena, the local community league, there's so many different places to get involved. There's no end to it. And the great thing about our business community is that everyone's involved at every level. Mm-hmm. So you're going to meet, and again, this is what's so brilliant. I've been to other cities where, everyone pulls out their keys and puts them on the table, and then everyone's looking around like, oh, you're just a BMW. I'm a Maserati. But in Edmonton, I have watched, second-year business students sit across the table in a meeting from a billionaire who owns, companies all over North America, but stays here in Edmonton, and their core focus is here in Edmonton. And they talk to each other, no keys on the table. There's no ego. Mm-hmm. They genuinely have conversations, and you can watch those folks try and help whoever's around. So many networking opportunities that just get out there.
And I think the Chamber lives up to that. And I can attest from personal experience that you and your team, they will make those connections. They will make those introductions. And I've been to many events where, our company's financing was, through the Chamber, someone I met at one of the coffees. And there's so many, clients and there's so many opportunities. And, I found also that there's certain events where they're just great learning opportunities, even though they're not necessarily networking ones. Yeah. And I think being around, the way I put it earlier, people that are further ahead in their career, there's just so much to learn from some of those conversations. So I'll give you an example. There was a round table where I think it was, before Prime Minister Carney was elected, where several business people sat down and basically shared what they were hoping to convey, and that you were kind of compiling, getting some information for the type of advocacy that you were going to do. And this meeting had a pretty profound impact on me, and I'll explain why. Everyone has a lot of ideas as to how things should be. People should do this. People should do, why is that way? This is not good. We need to do things this way. And when I was in that boardroom, there were people that, listening to their feedback and their input on specific bills and specific policies. Yeah. It's a level of discussion that I think a lot of people aren't used to, because it's not just, hey, I'm going to complain about this thing that I don't like. Yeah. It's, hey, this specific policy has this impact, so I would like to push for this. It's very practical. And I actually didn't speak that meeting. I actually just listened and took a bunch of notes, but it helped really shift my mindset from like, okay, we're not just here to complain about things. Yeah. We're here to actually make some kind of positive impact, but you have to know what kind of positive impact. You can't just whine about something. Yeah. So that was really valuable. And that was an opportunity that I didn't think that I would be able to sit in on that until further along in my career. And I think that the Chamber is an organization that provides that for people that want it.
Yeah, well, we've had quite a few, we've had a lot of ministers at the Chamber over the last 2 years. And actually, we've got a waiting list, federal and provincial ministers that are like, can I please come and talk to business community? So we set up a round table where we have a more intimate discussion for an hour and a half. Right. And you're right. I watch people say, I've had this experience, and I think this is how it impacts our sector or the city. We need to improve it overall. So they use their experiences, but they're not, complaining about their own issue and trying to find a solution to their problem. And then we move out to the larger audience of 40 or 50 people and again, have a really good discussion just with a broader context. And we always try and mix up the table because new entrepreneurs and new business owners have really different experiences and challenges than someone who's been at it for 15 years or someone who's barely associated with the company because it's so successful and they've been doing it for 50 years. Yeah. Totally different experiences and challenges around everything from making sure you have the qualified people to hire to what the tax rate is to our international brand and reputation. Like all those things get discussed. And I'm really actually proud, super proud of our team and how they've pulled the Chamber together. And we, of course, cooperate with the whole rest of the economic ecosystem. And I just, again, it's why I love this city, this economic ecosystem, and this business community. I don't think I'd want to do this job anywhere else in any other city.
Yeah, I mean, that's beautiful. And this is a city where you can see that impact very clearly, because again, everyone in Edmonton is just an arm's reach away. Everyone knows, it's like, what's it, like you're 2 people away from knowing pretty much everyone in the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the biggest small town in North America.
It is.
But it's got all the things you need in a city, but people care about each other.
So, Doug, we're just wrapping up our time here, but one thing that I wanted to ask you is, so for business people that are listening to this, every event that I go to with the chamber, I see you with Sue, and she's always there beside you. It seems like you guys are, I saw you guys dancing at one of the events. It seems like you have a really, like you're there for each other. And I wanted to ask you a few questions about the role of, a relationship in, for someone that's very career driven. And sometimes that can be a challenge. So what kind of impact has your relationship had in your career?
Oh, man. Well, I think early on, there's only 3 times I have had no doubt that it was going to work out. And that the first time was running for the election. The second time was meeting my wife. And the third time is this new launch of 13 Ways. And
wow,
that's how important that relationship is. I don't want to give the impression, a relationship is kind of like being in business. Anyone who tells you in business, "Oh, I've had pure success, I've never failed," is a liar. And it's the same in a relationship. Anyone who says, "Oh God, we've never had a fight,"
yeah,
liar.
Yeah,
the liar. Every couple and every relationship falls on tough times and has issues to deal with, and we're no exception. But the goal, I think, that gets you through those times is to always look down the road to see what the end goal is, and to make sure that the support goes 2 ways. So, I support my wife endlessly in her career when she didn't want to work and she decided she wanted to stay home and be a stay-at-home mom. And then when she decided, no, I don't want to do that anymore, it's time for me to go back to work. I still remember her looking at me and saying, I think 11 years of maternity leave is enough. I'm going to go get a job.
Yeah.
And, sometimes couples will say, my career is more important than yours. I think that's a mistake. You have to decide what you want in your life and what kind of choices you're going to make. But, marry a nice person. The whole 13 Ways concept was based on talking to high school students and a presentation I did. And I would go talk to high school students and say, this is how you're going to be successful. Study hard, don't do drugs, marry someone nice.
Yeah.
Right. And then I started to talk about, the mindsets they had that would sabotage their success and cause failure. But I think that's it. I married someone nice who cares about me and wants to see me successful, and I want her to see her successful just as much, and I care about her just as much. And I think that's the core, knowing you're going to have tough times, but always talking about the future and what your end goal is going to be. So it's not, I need this promotion. It's what is the purpose of this promotion for the life we want to live.
Right.
And that's the reason why you're doing it, not to have success, but to have satisfaction at the end of all of it.
Beautiful.
It's the old Winnie the Pooh. It's not getting the honey that makes you happy. It's the anticipation of the honey coming that makes you happy. So share in all that revelry and decide what the end goal and the purpose is.
Fantastic. Doug, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I think there's great conversation with a lot of information for people that are, just starting to get out there, or even seasoned business veterans here in Edmonton. So really appreciate you taking the time to come and do this.
Well, thank you. It's a great podcast. I think it's great for the city, and I think it's great for business and entrepreneurialism. So thank you so much for having me on here. I continue to enjoy listening to the episodes going forward.
Awesome. Do you want to tell us about your new book before we wrap up?
I can do that. It's still a work in progress,
okay.
And I keep saying I'm going to have to take some more time off to finish it. But after 13 Ways to Kill Your Community, I built the whole consulting business on that, and I I couldn't keep up. I mean, we were doing 7 digits a year of work quite easily, and I was exhausted. So I decided to write a book about how we do consulting. So it's the 7 essentials of success. And it's for communities, but the people who have pre-read it and given me some advice about where we're at have said it's the same 7 essentials for your business. It's the same 7 essentials for your life, same 7 essentials for your community. So I'm hoping that, consultants can use it, communities can use it to find that pathway and stop doing the things that continue to sabotage their own pathway to success.
Excellent.